All right. We're going to try and avoid what happened last time. I've got somewhat of a better view of what's going on here. Marking out my areas. There we go. All right, so, I can see somewhat of what the camera sees, which is great. Because honestly, that last thing was a fucking travesty. All right, so let's start over, shall we? I imagine I'm going to be sucking my lip and making weirder sounds now because all disclosure, I am much drunker now. So there we are. That's where we're at. All right, so okay. Do we have focus? We're focusing on this X. And our limits are here and here, there. All right, great. So we've got a general idea of where we're. That's what's in view. All right, cool. So the point of this exercise is that this particular image is somewhat more straight on. We've got a camera angle that is more direct towards the body. The previous one was more of a bird's eye view. It was going up to down. This one is a little bit more straight ahead. So we're going to get a little bit more knowledge of the figure. And from the drawings that you've done of this particular image, I would say you were slightly more successful just because of that very reason. All right, and so as with what we've done in the past, we're going to do a line of action. This has got an amazing line of action, this particular piece. And what is, I think, inadvertently informing that line of action is the suspender. It's actually quite magnificent the way that that suspender is kind of guiding us. We're getting a very natural, very kind of informative curve. All right, so we can see this, right? We've got a very, very strong line of action, very fluid movement. This is perfect. This is what we want for a really great composition. This is what works visually really well. This is the kind of thing that you want to work with the most. All right, so the one thing that presents a tiny challenge here, not a big one, but a tiny challenge, is that there is a head tilt. So we're going to start with the base of the skull, which doesn't change. It's always a sphere. It's a perfect sphere of the skull. It's right there. And then we've got a spine that continues down throughout the form, ending in the pelvis. Now, if you recall from the last lesson, we're working with a contrapazzo. If we were to move where the camera is looking, if we were to shoot the camera, like so, this camera is shooting here, right? We're looking like just pow, direct at it. But what if the camera were over here shooting this way? What we would see is this figure doing this. We would see shoulders up and hips that way. So do you see what I'm saying? Like, boom, bam. One way, the other way. This is the figure that we're looking at. We're looking at shoulders in one direction, hips in the other direction. we're looking at one sturdy, strong leg, right? And then this other one doing something more fun. You're probably kicking it out and doing something fun with your heel. So just get rid of that little doodle. All right. And so we're going to transfer that over into the angle that we're looking at right now. So we're seeing shoulders. Hold on. There you are. All right. So this is a little bit more subtle. You're actually twisting your spine in this piece a little bit, which is a really kind of interesting pose. It's actually quite fun. It's nice. I like that. But this is slightly more subtle. But you've got your shoulders there. Got it. One hip much higher than the other, way down here. So you've got that shape, right? That way, this way. Okay? Great. So next we'll just kind of shape out a rib cage for us. He seems nice, yeah. And then a little bit of a hip shape. It's like pelvis bone area. Yeah. Good. Great. And so, as you can see, and as you've done from your work on this, this leg is powerfully forward, and this leg is very firmly planted in the ground. Wherever this leg is landing, that's the strength. There's this leg is firmly flat on the floor, and this one is probably doing some kind of like cute little kick, or maybe the toes are barely touching the floor, something of that nature. Next, we're going to look at arms. We've got this one, it's tucked away behind the figure, but we're still drawing it through. This is very key, drawing through the figure. Regardless of whether you're going to see it in the final piece, we still want to draw it through. We want to see where it's going. This is actually pretty important. All right. Next, you've got a hand that's going to be somewhere around there. Ish, like that. Regarding proportions, I will give you a quick kind of overview. From shoulder to elbow is approximately, within reason and within perspective, from shoulder to elbow is the same as from shoulder to knuckles. However, this arm is tucking backwards, so it's not on perfect perspective. Therefore, it's not really going to abide by these rules. But if you're concerned about it, if you want to think about it, you've got this, like let's say that's a shoulder. Let's say this is an arm. You've got that arm, right? This is where your knuckles lie. You see that? So there's your proportions. Go shoulder, elbow, elbow, knuckles. Knuckles. Then fingers. Okay? It's a good thing to like consider, but with this particular image, because this arm is tucking back, the upper arm is going backwards, and then the forearm is coming forwards, so our perspectives are going to be skewed, which means you just kind of have to work with it. You have to observe it. But there you have it. All right, so we've got another situation happening with this arm, which is slightly subtly going backwards, and then slightly subtly coming forwards, and then we've got fingers wrapping around the side in this beautiful little hold, which is lovely. Okay, now, typically at this point, I would normally develop the face and the head a lot more. However, this particular image has a lot, and I mean a lot, of very difficult profile imagery. Profiles are actually pretty difficult to work with. Seconded only by straight-on photos. Those are two fairly challenging things to work with. The full profile, which is like the full side shot face, versus the full straightforward, like dead-on nose to camera face. They're not that easy. That you would think that they are, but they're the least informative angles, visually speaking. But this one in particular has a lightly, you're just ever so lightly tilting in a way that's giving us a little bit of information. However, this beautiful, by the way, I have to just give pause to how absolutely stunning this wig is. The wig you're wearing in this photograph is my absolute favorite. I am in adoration and love of this wig. I can't get enough of it, honestly. I've tried dyeing my hair like this, to be honest, and fucking hell, it is so pretty. Such a beautiful color. It is covering most of your face here. Which, you know, you've got such a lovely face. But goddamn, this wig is something else. It's an absolute sensation, this one. So it's covering a lot of the information that we need. But what are you gonna do? It's clowny. It's clowny shit. So I'm just gonna do some like loose doodles of the overall shape of the wig. And then I'm probably going to give a little bit of love to the hat. This goofy little cone, right? Yeah, I think we got more or less what we want out of that. Why don't we establish the nose? Right? Yeah. We can go from there. I think we got that about right. And then your collar, just doing this. So I suppose what's actually coming out of this lesson more than anything is that it's really good to keep like a loose and sketchy style with things. I really would like it if, and yeah, I know we discussed earlier how much and how expensive and obscene the price of art supplies are. You need to get yourself something that you can really feel like it's worth throwing away. Like, being able to experiment fearlessly is so important. When I was a youngster, I my my mom bought me a sketchbook and was like, "Oh, this is a very expensive sketchbook," and that sketchbook stayed empty because I was told how expensive it was. It's a bad way to establish a drive and fearlessness towards art, which is what you need to have. You have to really drive towards, like, none of this matters. I'm doing this to learn. If you get something that you're too precious about, that you hold too dear, that you make super important, it's going to remain empty, which is the opposite of what you need when it comes to learning and building your artistic abilities. So yeah, don't find something that you can just trash. Just absolutely beat the ever-loving shit out of it. Do you think Kurt Cobain spent a lot of money on his first guitar? I'll bet you he didn't. Bet you it was a cheap-ass piece of shit, and I bet you he played 3 chords, and I bet you he loved the ever-loving fuck out of it. So this is the point. We need to allow ourselves to experiment and be wild and not treat the materials as if they are so important that we can't be entirely disposable with them. Trust me, I get it. I'm living on a paycheck to paycheck basis at the moment. I'm checking my balance all the time. I'm concerned about all that kind of stuff. You have to find a way to make it valuable to have invaluable or non-valuable things. Does that make sense? Like, just have shit that, like, is good, but not so good that it doesn't get touched. Like, don't have the impossible thing. Like, it's just the thing you can't touch is worthless. Like, imagine a sculptor who finds the most beautiful piece of marble, and it's just this brick that just sits in their studio for ages, and then they fucking die at the age of 80. What a tragedy, you know? And so, yeah. Anyway, right now all I'm doing is kind of just shaping out the general poses. I've got your arms stuck in pretty good. Oh, I guess I should do the chicken. Should I do the chicken? Yeah, let's do the chicken. All right. So, hand shapes. Obviously I sent you those. I'm still doing the thing with my mouth. Ugh, I'm just going to be self-conscious about that forever. I'm sorry. Anyway, yeah. Hands. Study hands. Definitely study hands. And most of all with studying hands, do not get down on yourself about it. I promise you, you're doing better than you think you are. We all suck at hands. Everyone. I've been an artist and a painter for over 20 years, and the point is that hands are fucking tough. They just are. There's too many bones in them to, like, make any kind of sense out of anything. They're annoying, and you just get good at them by practicing and not being too critical of yourself. That's really the only thing you can do. You just have to keep going. Like, I'm not good. I hate the way that, like, my hands, I don't think I'm particularly good at. I've gotten to a point where I can do some version of something that I find relatively acceptable. Like, and that, honestly, if you get to that point, good on you. Because the truth of the matter is, I should do a lesson about this. Focal points are such a huge thing. Focal points are the way that you draw an eye to a certain point in your composition. You can use color, lines, composition. There's so many different things that you can use to draw an eye into a point. And this photo reference that I'm using right now is using color and contrast and vibrancy and hue and saturation in a way that is concentrating so much focal energy this way that if you were to do this image the way that the photograph is, nobody would even look at the hands. They wouldn't for a second be like, nah, those fingers look weird. They wouldn't care because all of the color, all of the saturation, all of the energy is leading your eye right there. There's no way that anybody is going to see that these fingers look a little strange. Great point. Something I should really bring up with you. I think I've gotten the chicken a little too close to your face, but I've already established these structures. I've gotten this to this point, and I'm not going to restructure at this stage. It's not right. This is definitely wrong. Like, I can tell you right now, this is way, way, way too close to your face, based on the reference. However, I'm not particularly mad at it. I don't think it looks bad. I think a good lesson in that is that sometimes something just, parts of it might be off, but if overall you step away from it and you ignore the reference and you just go like, what does this piece look like to me? It looks pretty cool, honestly. I think this looks like a cool piece. And so we've got some boobies there. We're gonna... Boop. I gotta do the mouth again. I'm sorry if I'm burping. You can hear me burping. I'm sorry, I'm a little drunk. Yep. So, I apologize if I'm like working too much on like a graphic line. I feel like maybe I'm kind of like going for like angles and like harmonious like shapes and stuff like that. It's just because today I was working all day on this fucking logo, and it's all about like using the same visual library language, which it's exhausting. It's fun because it's sort of like a math puzzle to solve, but at the same time it's just like, it's not very freeing. You kind of just have to adhere to the overall kind of corporate structures of things. All right. You know what I love about this photo, this reference, is like your goofy fucking smile here is so fun. Yay. Look at that. Boom. And then there. And then your silly ass little tongue sticking out like that. Boop. And then big old clown lip dirt. Dot. And that. Yeah. Pretty much. Except for the chin has to be whited out there. There we go. Great. All right. And so we've got a little belly there. And then a curve. And it comes up that way. Can we see what I'm doing next? I really like the angle that I've got this camera working at now because I can actually see what I'm filming at the same time. Now, this part actually comes back slightly to what I was talking about before about focal point. Oh, and if you know anything about performative magic, this is very, very much the same concept. It's actually kind of one of the ways that visual arts and performative arts converge, which is the distraction or the I forget what it's called, but like magicians use it to like they distract you. They pull your focus from like the point where they're actually like they're doing a thing and they're like giving away their trick, but you're not noticing them doing that because they're like getting your attention distracted in some other direction. I'm sure that Michael Caine said something about it in the fucking Prestige. I can't remember exactly what the term it is that they use, but like basically all of this doesn't matter. It does. Like you should get it right. Like get it right. But everyone's looking here. Everyone is going to be like focused on this part. So this part you can kind of be a little bit looser with. And that's something I'd like to see if you were able to kind of embrace, is that you don't really need to concern yourself with a heap of accuracy in every single element of the piece. You can kind of just be like a little bit more free in these zones, because I assure you, all of the color that you're going to be chucking up in this region, just based on like a very kind of simple like people like to look at faces, people like to look at kind of where the action is, and where the action is in this piece is you looking at this dumbass rubber chicken. The action really isn't on your roughly little britches here. That's not, I mean, yeah, hot, but not really the focal point. And so it's not necessary to give a whole heap of detail to this general area. You can kind of give it a bit of a kind of shorter shrift, I suppose. So anyway, yeah. I think, speaking on this though, I do want to give you a little bit more instruction around general anatomy, muscles, bone structure, that kind of thing. We can get into that later. It's not a huge thing. It's definitely not like, you know, necessarily something that you're gonna need to know a lot about right now, but we can totally get into that later. All right, so you're just placing your hand here. This is something I think I said on the other video, and I think I might not have said it here. This particular hand, please look at the reference image for this right now. The hand is doing this. So you've got a pinky finger, a forefinger, and then a middle finger and a ring finger. The thing I want to point out with this is because the middle finger is lying on top of the ring finger. Do you see that? Because the camera's coming slightly downwards at it, we're seeing way less of the ring finger than we think we are. This is something I struggle with, honestly, because they're just two fingers connected together, and you think you should see them equally, but you're not. You're seeing them angled. So keep in mind, when you see two fingers connecting like that, you want to think about how much of each one you are actually observing. And then we've got your thumb coming actually straight at the camera, more or less, which is a thing we can talk about later in anatomy, which is foreshortening, which is when a body part is coming directly towards the camera and it becomes weirdly unseen. All right, so not important right now. Right. Okay. So should we chuck some color on here just to make this fun? Because I didn't do any color on the last one, and I feel actually rather proud of the fact that this is more or less kind of clear. And we got things in perspective. Things looking good. So what I'm doing now is I'm just taking away guidelines because they don't need to be there necessarily. There's actually a lot I could probably just erase this entire thing. I think what we're talking about with that is we're not destroying the piece. I have a very heavy hand. I lay very heavily on the paper usually, so I could probably just wipe away most of this and I could still see what I intended and then color around it. You reckon I should try and find more colors than I had last time? I reckon that might be worthwhile. This is 31 minutes so far. I probably don't want to take up too much more of your time because I'm sure this is super boring. But it would be kind of cool if I could grab a few more colors. Where would I find them? I know I got them. High lamp. Ooh. That's fun. Okay. Well, we've got that. So that would be fun for shadow. There is, I don't know, I feel like if I try to do this right now, it might be like overcomplicating things. Get yourself like a lot of options. Definitely get yourself a lot of options. Let's do that. But for now, what I'm going to do is a silly little shadow thing. So this is a Prismacolor Premier. I don't like this brand. I actually really, really hate these markers. I think they're trash. But this thing was on super duper sale. It's just a light warm gray. And this is a cold gray. What the Alright, it's a cold gray. Fuck that. I'm going to use a cold gray to shadow you. What else we got? This is a warm 6 gray. That's going to be too dark. And that, warm 4. Now, these are some very, very cheap markers I got from New Zealand. Yes, there we go. And so a fun kind of like weird method is to go in with like a lighter shadow to start with. And just sort of like block in anything that you don't want to be like bright white. And if you can spend as little money as possible on it, all the better, because then you get to kind of throw it away. You can just use the fucker and be like, I don't give a shit. I think these were like 97 cents each at like a craft store in New Zealand. So that was fun. So just as I'm doing this, I'm going to tell you a very funny story about I think my first trip to New Zealand. So travel restrictions are pretty intense down here in the southern hemisphere. they really give a shit about what you take into any country. They're very protective about like livestock and diseases and stuff like that because they are sort of more or less closed ecosystems. And so my first trip to New Zealand from Australia, I declared that I had organic substances in my carry-on luggage, and they pulled me aside in the line, as they should. That was the whole deal. And they were like, so what exactly do you have? And I said, well, I've got these watercolor paints, and this, and this in the paint is an organic substance and is made from these plants that come from this country. The only one I can think of right now is the gum arabic, which comes from Africa. And they were like, they looked at me like, the fuck are you even fucking talking about? They were like, what? Why? What? I was like, well, yeah, it's made from a boiled African root. Like, this is an organic substance. It is not from your country. And you said to declare everything. And the immigrations officers were both impressed and annoyed. They were like, what? Huh? They're like, that is very, very interesting to know. But we just wanted to know if you had like an apple or like some kind of fucking, So that was funny. That I was like, yeah, well, my art supplies also have organic substances that are not from your country, and it's probably boiled and treated. And also, they sold the same paints in New Zealand, so I don't really think it actually mattered in any specific way, but it was a funny little situation. All right, so right now, all I'm doing is just using this very kind of light shadow to kind of strike in a lot of areas. Sort of the opposite of the last method where I was kind of looking for the darkest areas. Right now I'm just looking for the lightest ones. Just an alright method. Like it kind of just depends on like what you're looking for in the moment. And again, folds and fabric. That is something I did forget to send you references for. I'm going to send you some Alphonse Mucha images. I've been working on one just like tracing the silk fabrics. Oh my god, it is so beautiful. I don't get too hung up on it because, of course, as you know, I'm more of expressionist, impressionist, sort of illustrative kind of creator. So it doesn't matter that much to me if I get things super accurately. However, I love to practice and play with them because, yeah, fabric is so hard to do. And it's sort of a little monotonous, actually, but it is quite beautiful. It's undeniably beautiful. A really good folded fabric illustration is quite astounding. And I'm not sure if it's Michelangelo or Leonardo da Vinci, but they did some Conte studies that I looked at while I was doing a rendering course, and oh my goodness, just so beautiful. That was the course in which I learned that it's actually not shameful at all to even trace art. Like Leonardo da Vinci was a tracer. He traced most, if not all, of like his finest pieces. they used a lot of very inventive and kind of like creative and beautiful techniques that were original and creative for the time, but yeah, he essentially like used a device called camera oscura, which was a way of like projecting an image. Like he would take one thing, like a person sitting in a pose, and then use this device, these lenses and things, to shoot light out across them, refracting, and then reversing. They would end up on the actual canvas, and then he would trace around them, and then he would use that as a study. So like the idea of tracing, like if you want to like get all harsh on somebody about tracing, it's like, well, the guy who painted the Mona Lisa traced that. So maybe just chill out about tracing a little bit. Mostly what makes a great artist isn't their ability to render something by hand. It tends to be what they see as valuable, what their eye is allowing them to kind of consider something worth developing. And the artist isn't necessarily the execution of the art. The artist is the observer of that which should become art, which is becoming more and more troubling as days go by regarding AI art, which is why I'm so encouraged by your work, because you are so uniquely personal and not happy to just feed prompts into something. You are delighting and enjoying the creation process, which is why I'm even giving a shit about these lessons. I wouldn't do this for just anybody. I'm like doing this for you because you seem like somebody who actually cares. Like you really want to make something quite good, and you are well on your way to doing exactly that. And we're gonna get you there. Like I said before, your dedication and your discipline and your practice, the way that you really seem to want to improve, is got you well above me, to be honest. It's only a matter of time. Keep it up. And, okay, here comes the big hump. Don't get discouraged when you hit that brick wall of, oh, I don't seem to be getting any better. You are, it's just that you're not improving as quickly as you were before, because that's kind of the nature of these things. At some point, you're going to be developing so subtly, not in a bad way, but like right now, your acceleration is showing you so much improvement. Like you're getting so good so quickly, and that's so super fun. There is going to come a time in which it's going to feel like you're not actually making any improvement whatsoever, and I promise you that you are. This is like part of that imposter syndrome kind of shit, is that you are getting better. It's just that like it's hard to observe it from where you are because you've been doing it for so long, that it kind of just seems like you're stalled out, that you're not really actually making many big steps. And you are, and I promise you'll get over that hump. It is sort of like this big hill that that imposter syndrome sort of hill does seem insurmountable at a certain point. For me, the thing that got me over it was school. I went to school, and learned from other students and from different teachers and from all sorts of different sources, and I could see myself growing in different ways and stuff like that. But if you remain self-taught, you are going to, not that I'm saying you shouldn't remain self-taught, but it is going to be difficult at one stage to kind of appreciate the fact that you are actually still growing. And yeah, it's just that in a vacuum, it's kind of difficult to kind of gain that kind of proper perspective for it. I think we're going to leave this one black and white. I'm kind of enjoying this kind of vibe. Also, we're hitting 45 minutes, which means it's probably time to shut down, seeing as how it's going to take some time to just upload this. So, yeah, we're just going to finish up here. I don't think I've said anything of value in the last 20 minutes. I think I've just been babbling. I do apologize for that. I hope you've enjoyed my absolute nonsense with things. But yeah. I know you said that you like the sound of my voice, which is fucking batshit crazy, but you fucking said it, so here you go. And I think that's better. Do you need me to teach you how to do sphere shading? I don't think you do. It's like in a billion different art supply books, how to do sphere shading. It's actually one of the most boring lessons ever. But if you want me to, I will. It's really... bleh. Like, yeah, okay. I mean, I guess it's fundamentals, but it's not the most fun thing to learn. Yeah, there we go. Oh, and I got like a little peek out of the makeup there. And then we'll just do a little... Yeah. Pretty good. And then we're just going to finish up this. Where's that light gray? Ooh, that is dark gray. Oh, well. Okay, well, just go with the flow. That's all we can really do. Alrighty. Great. Pretty much finished here. Aside from stupid ass chicken. That's something. Okay. And then fingers. 1, 2, 3. There. That one's holding here. What do you reckon? Maybe a little more fat? Great. More or less. And just so what I'm doing right now, what I've mentioned before is a squint test. Just looking at the reference image, squinting my eyes as closely and tightly together as I can, just so I can see if there's any very glaring details or anything that just needs like a little bit of fixing before I finish up. Just because like I'm pretty happy overall with the way that this looks. I think it's a fairly finished piece with the details I've gotten with it. I just kind of want to look, like I'm squinting at this and I'm squinting at the image. I'm like, where is there anything that is very obviously off? And I don't really see much of anything. Yeah, I think we're pretty good here. That's fine. Yeah. I mean, this could be a bit darker, but it also really doesn't matter because nobody's actually going to be paying attention to this area. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, get yourself a good set of gray shade markers. Get like a set of 6 to 8. A mix of warm, a mix of cool, one way or the other. I think if you're going to keep doing people mostly, then get warmer shades. If you just get a warm shade set, buy a single cool shade set just to give it some like dynamic kind of offset. But yeah, go for that. That's definitely a good way to go with this kind of thing. Yeah, there you go. This one is for you. Look at me using a cheeky bright red to do my signature in. Haha! Pay attention to me. Pay attention to me! The end.